everyone, and welcome to Daily Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by LawSeco. So, today we will discuss the important news articles from Saturday's, that is 31st July's newspapers, as well as today's, that is 2nd August newspapers for both the Hindu as well as the Indian Express. So, the first article that we will discuss is from the Saturday's Indian Express, which is titled as What Changes in the Juvenile Justice for Juvenile Offenders and District Magistrate. So, this talks about the recent changes that have been proposed in the Juvenile Justice Act. So, what are they and what would be the impact of these changes on the overall nature of the Act will be discussed in this article. The articles for today are from two newspapers. The first is from The Hindu, which is titled as A Cycle of Low Growth, Higher Inflation. So, this talks about the increase in the inflation in the current situation and what should be the current step that should be taken. Should we not do anything and just wait for the economy to revive itself, or should we do something about it? Has been discussed in this article. And finally, we have the article from the Indian Express Explained section, which is titled as Who is Bhumiputra in Goa and why is opposition objecting to new law? So, who basically will be considered as the Bhumiputra? What is this term related to? And what would be the impact or what would be the things that are attached to the Bhumiputra in the state of Goa have been discussed here. So this newspaper analysis is presented by me. My name is Sheba Khan. I am a law graduate and I had completed my law degree from Uttaranchal University in the year 2019 with a gold medal in my batch. I also have been a national debater as well as a public speaker. And here at LawSeco, I'm working as the current affairs manager. And if you wish to connect with me, you can find me on my Twitter as well as LinkedIn handles. The links to both are available in the description box below. So this is the multiple choice question from yesterday's discussion. Compulsory vaccination hits on which fundamental right of an individual? Your options are Article 14, 21, 25 or 32. If you know the answer, you can put it down in the comment section below. So this is a descriptive question from today's discussion. Who is considered as Bhumiputra? What law has been recently passed in this regard? So once we are done with today's discussion, I'm sure that you will be easily able to answer this question. So if you wish to download the PDF of these slides or you want to avail other study material like the current affairs monthly newsletters, daily quizzes, monthly quizzes, etc. So you can be a participant in our LawSeco test prep Telegram channel. The link to this channel is also given in the description box below, or you can scan the QR code that you can see on your screens right now. Also, for other crisp and informative content, do not forget to follow us on our official Instagram channels for LawSeco Judiciary, CLAT Prep, as well as UGC Net if you're preparing for any of these exams. So let's quickly start with the discussion for the day. Firstly, which talks about the Juvenile Justice Amendment Bill 2021. So, the Rajya Sabha recently passed the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Amendment Bill 2021, amending the Juvenile Justice Act of 2015, and this has already been passed in the Lok Sabha. So, the main point, that the most important point of discussion for us is to understand that what are the major amendments or the changes that would be brought in the 2015 JJ Act after this bill becomes an act for 2021. So there are two things. So first thing is that the changes brought in two broad areas. Firstly, it increases the powers and responsibilities of the district magistrate. So what does it do? The DM can now issue adoption orders under section 61 of the Juvenile Justice Act and will have more teeth, which means we'll have more say or a greater say or more power in monitoring the children homes. And secondly, it will clearly define various categories of juvenile offences as far as possible outside the adult justice system. Now, hence, we can say that greater powers to the district magistrate in the adoption cases, and secondly, better definition or more clarity on the kinds of offences or category of offences that can be done by the juvenile. They will be done in this particular amendment. So let's understand that why did we actually need this particular amendment? So according to the NCPCR report of 2018 and 19, out of 7,000 childcare institutions, 1.5% do not conform to the rules under the Juvenile Justice Act, and 29% had major issues in the management as well. And that is why it was much required that these are better managed and more clarity can be seen, and maybe more division of power and labor might make the entire system bit smoother. Also, none of the childcare institutions was 100% compliant of the Juvenile Justice Act, and that is why, if at all, we have different and special provisions for the juvenile. Now, I hope here that you all understand that who exactly do we mean by a juvenile when I'm talking about the Juvenile Justice Act. Let me still clarify to you. Juvenile simply means a person who is considered to be as a minor and is of age of 18 years or below. So if at all there is a person who was 18 years or below and had some offense or conducted some offense or did anything, anything criminal in nature, so that person would be called as juvenile. And because of the tender age which is considered, this person, or in a way, if we can call this person, we do not even use the word offender, because, or a criminal, because this gives a lot of gravity to that person's act, and that is why it might hamper the coming future of that person. And that is why this juvenile in that manner would not be treated at par or as equal with the persons that are considered to be as major, that is 18 years or above the age. And that is why it is important that the institutions, even they are not kept in jails, rather they are kept in the child care institutions or the correction homes that we call in the common language. And if at all we really, really want that the efforts that we are doing to keep them separate from the mainstream offenders or the mainstream criminals, in order to make them learn that they did a mistake and they have a good and bright future ahead. So if at all we really want to stand by on that purpose, so it's important that these childcare institutions work most and most efficiently. Let's also understand that what are the other functions of the district magistrate. So firstly, also he would monitor the functioning of various agencies under the Juvenile Justice Act, such as the child welfare committees, the juvenile justice boards, district child protection units, and special juvenile protection units as well. Secondly, he would also be responsible for ensuring all the childcare institutions are following the norms of the Juvenile Justice Act. And thirdly, he would carry out the background check of the CWC, which are the Child Welfare Committee members as well. So let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about the ensuring demand and growth through the policy action. Now, here the most important thing that we need to understand firstly is that what do we call as a cyclical economy? The first thing that we need to understand. And secondly, what is the Minsky moment, which term has been used in this particular article? So currently, the right-leaning economists. Now, who are these right-leaning economists? Let's discuss. Basically, these are the persons who have been arguing that the government does not really need to do anything with the economy, and that it will revolve by itself. Now, here we need to understand that there are different kinds of ideologies when it comes to the revival in an economy. So here they give an example of the Great Depression, that during the times of 1920s and 30s, when the Great Depression was there, so there it was actually the economy that revived by itself, and the government did not really have to do anything about it. But then again, there are also people who say that in the times of Great Depression, especially, the demand was created by the reasons of World War II, which was during the time of 19 which actually ended in the times of 1945. And that is why the World War II played a very important role in creating the demand. And that is why, whenever, as we know, there is higher demand in the economy, there is better production as well, and thus the entire system of the economy comes into the right loop, and thus the economy starts to revive itself. So there are basically two broad or common sets of thinking when it comes to economy. There are first kind of people who say that we do not need to do anything about increasing the demand, especially we just need to wait, the economy will bounce back itself. These are the people who are called as the right leaning economists, and many a times they're also called as the cyclical theory, wherein the other set of people or thinkers who believe that the government needs to actively participate and maybe needs to push in money into the economy, or maybe increase the demand with certain things. So that set of people who think that the government should actually play a role in bringing out the entire depression, or the bringing out or reviving the economy of the country, they are called as the people from the Keynesian school. So basically, these are two basic schools of the economy. Now let's understand that what are the basic arguments against the particular thought that the government should not do anything, and why the other set, the Keynesian people, they believe that we should be doing something. So firstly, as we have just discussed, that during the time of Great Depression, which is being very promptly, or which is being very abjectly, it is being pointed out by these people. So they say that in the times of Great Depression, the demand was created by the World War II. But currently, if we understand the situation of COVID-19, There is no war-like situation as such, and thus the no war is here responsible to create the demand. Instead, the COVID-19 has resulted in the demand destruction, because here people have been demanding less, and that is why there is no any subtle factor that could lead in the increase of demand. Secondly, India has stagnant growth to low growth in last 2 quarters with increasing inflation, which means that we have had absolute growth of negligible. So it says that we have had a very low growth, and on the other side, we have had higher inflation. Now, for our inflation discussions, you may please go through our previous sessions of a newspaper analysis, where in very great detail we discussed as to what is inflation. But I would like to explain it into very crisp understanding so that you can make the best out of this entire discussion. So inflation simply means what we call as the general increase in the price of goods. So when there are more number of people chasing less number of goods, so definitely there is a chance that the prices of these goods that we are actually chasing or that we actually want to buy will increase. Now in this situation, the general price of the particular goods will increase in the economy, and what we simply call as महंगाई हो रही है. So that is the situation. When we say that महंगाई हो रही है is a simple situation, or the prices are increasing, everything is very costly, is a simple situation of inflation. And yes, indeed, there is no doubt about it that India has been severely facing inflation from a lot of time now. So it also says that the high commodity and asset price inflation caused by the ultra loose monetary policy. Now, by ultra loose monetary policy, we'll also understand in the next point itself. So do not worry about it. Then it also says that the essential goods have increased. The cost of the essential goods have increased due to scarce supply caused by COVID-19 and reactionary measures. So I just mentioned here that basic definition of inflation is more number of people chasing less number of goods. So here it is saying that we have scarce supply, and that is why, since people are demanding, still they are subtly demanding about that particular thing, but because the supply is less, so that is why the prices will be higher now. Now, the next point here is the lowest interest rates is actually creating excess supply of money. Now, what is happening is that here, I'll give you a very, very simple example. Let's say there are 100 people in a particular economy. Now, all of these 100 people want to buy one apple each. But the number of apples that are being able to be supplied in this economy are, let's say, only 60. So what is happening is that more number of people, that is 100 number of people, are chasing less number of goods. That means only 60 apples in total. Now, because of the lowest interest rates, now since the banks, they are able to give, or they are giving the loans on lower interest rates, so people have more money in their hands. I hope you're able to connect over here that if at all, let's understand, the banks are giving us loans on very less interest. So definitely we'll be better incentivized to take more money in our hands and save less. Now in this situation, since we have more money in our hands, we are more people to buy the goods, but the number of goods is very less. Now, in this situation, if I have money in my hand, I definitely would be in a position to pay better or more for the same apple, for which, let's say, I would have paid 20 rupees for the apple. But now, since I have surplus money in my hand, I would be ready to pay, let's say, even 35 rupees for the same apple or the same good. This is a simple example of inflation, when I, being more number of people, am chasing less number of goods, and because I have more money in my hand, I'm willing to pay more for that particular thing. So now this is actually the current situation which is going on. And the next thing that the article points out is the rising non-performing assets in the public sector banks. So the offering credit to the leveraged companies, so basically they're offering their credits, that is money, to the leveraged companies instead of direct subsidies to support the small and medium enterprises or the micro and small medium enterprises. So that is why what they're doing is that they are giving credit to the leveraged companies. And due to this, what is happening is that many a times bad debt is happening, which means that they're not even being returned. The money that they are paying off or giving as debt is not even being returned to these public sector banks. And that is why their non-performing assets are being increased. So let's understand another thing that is there in this article, which talks about the Minsky moment. So what actually in an economy is considered to be as the Minsky moment? So it was coined by the economist Hyman Minsky. Please remember the name. So he said that every credit cycle has three distinct stages. All right. So credit cycle is basically, let's say there is a bank that takes money from the Reserve Bank of India. Now from this particular commercial bank issues money as a debt to another person or a company. Now that company may give it to another person, then that money would be returned on some interest, and thus an entire cycle is formed that is called as the credit cycle. So, according to Hyman Minsky, there are three most distinct stages of any credit cycle. Firstly, is the cautious lending and risk aversion by the bankers. That firstly, the bankers, those who are lending the money, should be very cautious as to whom are they giving the money, in what economical situation are they lending the money, at what interest rate are they giving the money, what is the background of that particular person or company to which they are giving the money, in order to avert the risk, that is to reduce the risk as much as possible. The risk, now what risk are we talking about here? The risk of not being able to get back that money. Okay. And the second one is lending to trustworthy investors who can pay back. Now, here you must have seen that it is always very easy for the government officials to get loans from the banks. Now, be it any bank, they are very much willing to give loans to the government officials as compared to any new person who is a new into business, or who is a very young person or has his own startup or anything. Now, why do you think would be the reason? Definitely they know that, see, this person is in a complete secure government job, no matter what, unless there is a very very dire situation of a financial emergency, but this person will be given his salary in the account on a particular date of the month. And that is why this person is the most risk free person, as since he has stable income, he would be able to return the money in a very stable and timely manner. And that is why they see that they are lending the money to more trustworthy investors. Now, if we talk about the private persons also, so there are companies that have a great reputation. Like, let's say, for example, if at all the company Reliance for Mukesh Ambani goes to any of the banks to take the loans, so don't you think that they would be more than willing to pay the bank, pay the give the debt to Reliance company, because they've seen the reputation of the company. They know that this is a very very huge company, and the kinds of investments they are making, it is very unlikely that their money would not be returned. But let's say there is, Vijay Malia, who now comes back to India and asks for more money from a particular bank. Do you think that the bank would be really willing to pay the money? Definitely not. So definitely the reputation of the of the company plays a very important role. And thirdly, the state of euphoria, which means it is caused by the rising asset prices, where bankers lend to the debtors regardless of their ability to pay back. Now, there are also very like some situations wherein the bankers do not really pay a lot of attention as to whom they are paying the money as debt, and irrespective of all these points, they simply pay or give the debt irrespective of the fact that they would be paid back or not. Now, the Minsky moment marks the decline in the asset prices, causing mass panic and inability in debtors to pay their interest and principal. Let's say, for example, that I took a loan from a particular bank based on my one asset. Let's say I owned a home, and based on that, I got a loan from the bank. But now, due to the poor health of the economy overall, the asset that I was actually relying upon, this home that I was relying upon, the overall value of this home is also declined. Now, definitely, when the overall value of this home declines, so definitely the asset price will also decline. Now, in such a situation, what will happen is that I will not be in a better situation to pay back. Let's say that earlier from this particular home, I was getting a rent of maybe 30,000 rupees. But due to the overall decline of the property, the real estate, or anything for that matter, the only amount that I'm getting over from this house is 20,000 rupees. Now, definitely, this will hamper my ability to pay back to the bank. And that is why this moment is called as the Minsky moment, wherein the debtors or the people who had taken the loans are, in a panic situation to pay their interest and principals. And why we were discussing Minsky moment? So, according to this entire article, India has now, in the wake of COVID-19 and falling economy, has reached the Minsky moment. So if you also think that we have reached the Minsky moment, do let us know in the comment section for sure. So let's discuss the last article for the day, which talks about the Bhumiputra in Goa. So the Goa Assembly has passed the Goa Bhumiputra Adhikarini Bill 2021. Why? To recognize anyone living in the state for 30 years or more as Bhumiputra. Now, as the name itself is suggesting, Bhumiputra simply means son of the soil. Bhumi means soil and Putra means son. So son of the soil, and giving them right to own his or her small dwelling unit if till date the ownership was undetermined. Now let's understand the bill into a greater detail. So basically it is to give ownership right to the self-occupied dweller of a small housing unit which is not more than 250 square meters built before the date of 1st April 2019 to enable him to live with dignity and self-respect and exercise his right to life as well. So here, let's understand that this exercise is not free, and a payment equivalent to the market rate is to be paid. But then, without any hustle, the ownership would be given to that particular person. So then it also provides for constitution of the Bhumiputra Adhikarini. So it's the committee consisting of the DC and the officials from the Department of Town and Country Planning, Forest and Environment, as well as the Mamlatdars will be there. And Bhumiputra may apply to the committee for recognition as well. Now let's understand that why is it being opposed by a lot of people. So firstly, it says that the bill was passed in a haste without proper study or debate. Secondly, they are calling it as BJP's election engineering in order to just woo people, towards its own party, towards its own, this agenda, political agenda. So, thirdly, the concerns are there over illegal structure being regularized. So, this they say that many illegal structures would also be given the right ownership, which should not be given. And fourthly, the bill will recognize illegal encroachments also by the slum dwellers that are over 30 years old as Bhumiputras. So these are definitely some valid issues which need to be addressed before the implementation of this particular bill, if at all it becomes an act. So this was all for the day. We hope it was a good session for you all. Thank you so much for staying tuned with LawSikho. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe to our channels for more updates.